KNC Miner is a company that's selling ASICs on pre-order. ASIC miners, are a very fast way to buy Bitcoins. And a lot of companies have been selling ASIC miners on pre-order, but there have been some issues with those because sometimes pre-orders, which is why they're pre-orders, don't meet the specifications, don't come out in the time that they're promised to come out in, and things like that. KNC Miner, on the other hand, seems to be pretty serious. They are on track with their schedule that they've set out to their customers to start shipping their units in this year in September. They're going to have their first shipment in September. Apparently they're ready to go. And these are very powerful miners. These are going to be the most powerful units out there on the market, assuming everything goes well and they get them out there. And they've released a statement about their plan. It's called their network protection statement. So I wanted to talk about that with you guys because I think that's a really interesting thing. Here's their statement. At KNC Miner, we are aware of the service we're providing to our customers. We are also aware that we need our customers to have a return on their devices in order to purchase from us again. With the scale of the supply chain factories that we have access to, we need to be cautious we don't ship too many devices and therefore reduce the return to our customers. So with that in mind, our plan is to do as follows. And remember, they don't say this in the statement, but I'm just going to break in here and say that they plan to ship their first shipment in September, coming up here in just a few months. So they're going to start shipping in September and maybe ship in September and October with their first batch there. And then they say, we will ship no devices in December 2013, January 2014, or February 2014. Meaning that once we have taken the difficulty up at the end of November, we will not release any more hashing power for 3 months. We will then release our new generation of devices, which will begin shipping in March 2014. These devices will also have a much higher gigahash per dollar rating than any of our current offerings. We would like to state that if any of our competitors continues to add large amounts of hashing power to the network during December, January, or February, we will continue to release our device as competitively priced as we can to protect our customers' share of the network. Thanks, KNC Miner team. So basically, what they're doing is planning a strategic distribution of their devices, which are going to be very powerful devices, no doubt are going to affect the hashing power of the Bitcoin network. And some people, are really going to profit from these. But the question is 3 months enough of a sort of a moratorium? And of course, KNC Miner doesn't control the entire market, so there could be other companies that come out and release powerful devices in that time frame where they're sort of not shipping any units to make sure that their customers can get a return. Is that enough? They're positioning themselves as a very powerful force in Bitcoin mining and saying, look, we're being responsible. We're gonna hold off voluntarily during these 3 months to make sure people get a return. I guess I just want to talk about this. What do you guys think?
I think this is fantastic. It reminds me of a similar organization which helps organize commodity prices to ensure there's no market glut. I believe it's called OPEC. And so I can imagine this would be the OHECK, the Organization of Hashing Exporting Companies. And what they would do is they would organize in order to restrict supply and to make sure that no one company produced more than their quota. Is that a good word? Quota. Yes, they're exporting quota. And then use that to stabilize market prices. What could possibly go wrong?
So this is a hash rate cartel. Here's what you're saying.
Well, I mean, the announcement sounded almost exactly like the kind of announcement that Saudi Arabia puts out every 6 months, saying that their fields are good, their hashing power in the ground is good, and they're going to trickle it out to users on a sustained schedule to be responsible producers of petroleum. This is no different than OPEC, really. It is. What happens is that along comes some nut job, let's call it Saddam, and Saddam miners goes out and floods the market with hashing power, ignoring the evil OPEC cartel. And what's KNC Miner said they're going to do then? Oh, right. Yes, they're going to sell as fast as their competitors if they don't play with this cartel game in order to respectfully ensure that their customers don't miss out on the market opportunities. So, yeah, we know how well this is going to work. We've seen it. If it does work temporarily, then what happens is you have a supply crisis. I believe we had one here in 1973.
The real wild card in this is if any other companies are going to be able to break the cartel and compete with them right? And put out other devices within the time frame so that they really don't have this much power in the marketing devices.
Well, I think history tells us that these types of cartels don't last very long. And the reason they don't last very long is because they pit the self-interest of the producing companies against their stated objectives, and eventually one of them crumbles. So it's really not a sustainable solution, which is why I'm concerned about volatility in the hashing power, because essentially when you see examples of people trying to put cartels together in order to control the supply of hashing, that tells you that they're not trusting that the marketplace will provide smooth transitions.
You know, immediately looking at this, the thing that strikes me is that this exactly reinforces the point that we've been making over and over again, that ASICs, while they might be good for certain participants in the market, namely people who make ASICs, for people who are trying to use ASICs as a way to increase their mining power, it's a really, I mean, there's no winning this game unless you have unlimited money to throw at it. We've seen now, I mean, this statement lays out, it doesn't lay out what the worst case scenario is, but it certainly lays out what the best case scenario is. That's people who have pre-ordered these devices, receive these devices, and then get a whopping 3 months to try to profit from that, you know, on the assumption that everybody decides to voluntarily play ball with, like you guys said, this cartel sort of attempt, when I think that we know pretty conclusively that with all the various players in the market, that's not going to be the case. And, you know, as fast as this technology is progressing, it's in none of the company's best interests to hold it back and not continue offering the thing that is ever faster. It's the same thing we have right now, where you have the smallest units from Butterfly Labs that were pre-ordered a year ago. They're still oftentimes, people are still waiting to receive those. And yet the generations of technology, we're at least 2 generations ahead of those at this point. It's like the USB eruptors, the little ASICs on a stick. You know, that's great if you can throw unlimited money at it and you're comfortable upgrading your equipment every couple of months because that's what's required to be competitive. But I don't think that's what most people who are buying ASICs think they're getting into when they make that pre-order purchase.
I can just see the future right now. In a decade or so, ASIC miners have become 100 million times more powerful. KNC miners decides to put an embargo on U.S. customers, and the U.S. government discovers weapons of mass hashing and invades Sweden. You know, don't be cynical. They're not invading for their hashing power. They're implementing regime change to liberate the Swedish people.
Well, you know, I mean,
for freedom.
The flip side of that, though, is that I don't think that it's even possible to have a situation like that here because there isn't the potential to monopolize. The problem is that on an individual by individual basis, you know, if you're an ASIC producing company or a oil producing nation in your example, then you have a lot of control there. But it's the users that are important, and since there's no limitation on who can manufacture these things, only who does manufacture these things, I don't really think you wind up with a situation where it can be controlled in that way. For me, it's not so much about that as it is about the fact that I don't feel like the marketing that is going along with ASIC devices really jives well with what the reality is. I think the marketing says that if you buy one of these, you can participate in mining on a high level. I think the reality is that if you buy one of these, you can participate on mining on a high level for a couple of months, and then pretty much you need to buy more hardware.
I do think that in the end, when this becomes advanced enough in terms of fab manufacturing, it will come down to very few who can actually make these devices.
Also, I'd be willing to bet a Bitcoin to either of you who wants to take me up on it. I think there's zero chance that they will go through with this and they will not continuously release their machines. I suspect that, again, like that clause at the end says, that if any of their competitors continue to add large amounts of hashing power, which we know is coming, they're just going to jump right in because they don't want to miss out on that opportunity as a company, not for their customers. The customers they're talking about are the ones who are going to buy more hardware, not the ones who've already sold it to.
I won't take that bet with you, Adam. Production-controlled cartels never work in the long run, and not even in the medium run. They only work for very short periods of time, and if they manage to create an embargo during that time, that's fine, but in the long run they don't, because they run contrary to the incentives of the people running them.
If I showed you a website where you could easily purchase electronics from the world's largest distributor with Bitcoins at 0% markup, would you think it was too good to be true? Good news. It's real, and it's at bitcoinstore.com. choose from 500,000 items, save money over Amazon and Newegg, and convert your Bitcoins to real-world items. You can even buy with privacy. All they need is a shipping address. But don't take my word for it. See for yourself at bitcoinstore.com.